think it's probably no secret anymore that one of my ultimate guilty pleasures is watching trashy reality TV shows. I don't know, I just love, I guess, a good dose of the very same drama that I tend to avoid in my everyday life like the plague. When it comes to TV drama, though, there's probably no family out there that does it better than the Kardashians. I've been following the KKK tribe, Kim, Courtney, and Khloe, since we were all still only trying to keep up with them. I watched all the way up until we finally had to say adieu to the family that had gotten so filthy rich that they basically just didn't need us anymore. And I was there again when they made their haha psych. We actually do miss the limelight and relevance that our show gave us, but we're going to come back and we're going to rebrand because we are entering our Madonna era, and now you shall only be referring to us as the Kardashians. I hate to even think how much money collectively this family has, but nevertheless, they are entertaining somehow. And since I've been following them for such a long time, it was little things that I started to notice. So it's not just obviously their rebrand and they're renaming themselves as the Kardashians, but it was also how they essentially rebranded their image. They were like once known as this curvy, exercise adverse millennials, and they went from stacking their mansions with these iconic now cookie and candy jars to retransforming into this Gen Z aspiring gym fit fiends. And I remember reading an article somewhere, I don't know if it was last year or this year, but all I know is that I haven't been able to forget it. And it was that Kim Kardashian, it was this article where Kim Kardashian revealed her fitness secrets. And one of them was that she trains apparently 2 hours a day, 5 to 6 times a week. Now, like, if you are a gym goer, you know that an hour at the gym is not just decent, but it's very good. Like, if you calculate in traveling to and fro to the gym, then you calculate in your shower and all of that kind of stuff, you're looking at a nearly 2-hour round trip. And I'm not even going to take into consideration things like going to the sauna after your workout. So it's like a decent chunk of your day, right? Like that you're spending in this exercise world, you know? And also, if you are someone who goes to the gym after work, there is no way that you will be home before 8. And my gym, for example, is in Neukölln, and very appropriately for this neighborhood, my gym doesn't even open before 9. So I don't even have the option of being one of those, in my opinion, completely insane people who fit in a session at the gym before the rest of their day starts. So I'm just imagining now, like, say, instead of my regular gym routine, which is an hour workout, that I start upping that and making it 2 hours. I mean, it's not even like once you've gained a certain amount of fitness, if you've been exercising for long enough and you exercise maybe 4 times a week and each session of your workout lasts for an hour, it's not even about your fitness being the reason why you don't exercise for 2 hours. It's more about not having that amount of time, which is like, honestly, it's a 2-hour workout, which means commuting and all the other stuff makes it more than 2 hours of your day. And that's just like an exceedingly long amount of time if you want to have any time left for, you know, like your friends and partner, if you have a partner. It's like, and I'm just going to say as well that like, even if you could exercise in the morning and you did do your 2-hour fitness routine and you get up at 5 and you're finished by 7 and then you do your work day, you're going to need that energy back at some point of the day. So you're probably going to be in bed by 9, watching a show for half an hour and then off to Dreamyland, you know? Like, so the payoff, it seems like, for looking hot is being a grandma at home. Like, I'm just saying, like, but it's like hot girl bod, grandma under the sheets. maybe, like you have to wonder what is being sacrificed. But that's not really the point that I wanted to make. The thing that this got me thinking about is about competition, being a competitive person and where that kind of drive and all of that comes from. When someone like Kim Kardashian says that her workout routine is to exercise for 2 hours a day, 5 to 6 times a week, it's like she's basically saying, that's why I am who I am and you are who you are. Anything you can do, I can do that 10 times harder and better. Like I was thinking about this recently too with podcasts. Like a friend asked me last week how long it takes me to make a Moody Monday episode. And I was like, thanks for asking. Actually, it does take way longer than you might expect. Making a podcast, like when I make a Moody Monday episode, it's about 3 days of work. It's not like full days, but it's about 1 day to find a topic, research and script. Then it's 1 day of recording and editing, and then 1 day of polishing everything up, posting it, doing all the social media bits and stuff. Which then got me thinking about how YouTube star and internet personality Emma Chamberlain, who also has a podcast called Anything Goes, releases not 1, but 2 podcast episodes a week, which again is kind of like Kim K. I do 2-hour workouts a day instead of 1 hour. Emma's also like, okay, cool. You have a podcast? How many times a week do you post? Once, probably, I guess. I do 2, but, whatevs. Bye, Off I go being my millionaire self. I don't know. I overheard a conversation of a girl who had recently moved from New York to Paris. She was talking about the difference in culture between Paris and New York and the States in general. And she was saying how there are some cafes in Paris that literally will post signs in their windows discouraging people from posting about them on TikTok or social media. And how, as an American, her mind became discombobulated at that thought because it's so deeply ingrained in the American spirit to believe that each and every business wants to become a conglomerate, and how really the main difference of attitude between French people in comparison to Americans is that people in France want to have enough money to get by, but they also want to be able to have a life and enjoy it. I was listening to an old podcast of Emma Chamberlain's recently where she was talking about social media and identity. For anyone who doesn't know who Emma Chamberlain is, she's like this YouTube star. Basically, if YouTube had a Hall of Fame, she would be on it because she's really one of the, kind of like a pioneer when it comes to YouTubers as a profession, essentially. And I think she started making her vlogs as like a 14 or I think 15-year-old, and her account really took off a year after that. So before she even finished high school. Actually, I think she didn't even end up finishing high school at that time. But by the end of 2018, her channel had gained around 6 million subscribers. I watched a talk that she did somewhere about that, actually, about her fame and how it felt, especially at such a young age. I think she's 23 now. And she mentioned how when she started, she went through a phase where she was uploading a video a day for a few months, and how this was like a wild time and she would probably never do something like that again. Obviously, it takes more than just an insane frequency of posting that leads to someone gaining the amount of success and following that she has. But it did also get me thinking about the hyper-competitive and obsessive spirit that lays behind stuff like that. In her talk about social media and identity, she says how it's not just people with tens of thousands of social media followers that are cultivating their brand or their image online, but she goes on to say how she's even seen accounts of people who have, 3,000 followers who have a really strong curated image online. And she says it like 3,000 followers is just like a shockingly low number of followers for her. And of course, this made me lol a lot because I'm not actually even making a dig at Emma Chamberlain. I actually just had to look up to see how many Instagram followers she has right now. And right now she has 15 million followers. So obviously if you get to the point where she's at, you can start losing a bit of touch. Like a person who has 15 million followers, to them an account that has 3,000 followers is like to someone who has 3,000 followers, an account who has 3 followers, like it's basically a friends and family account. So it was perplexing to see how curated some of these sort of accounts could be. Regardless, I do otherwise think that she's somehow managed to keep a pretty down-to-earthness about herself for a 23-year-old self-made millionaire, and her content is surprisingly still quite relatable, I would say, and interesting to me, even despite the age gap. Like, I'm quite a bit older than Emma, and I think she's got a slightly dark and funny personality, and just genuinely does come across as a what you see is what you get kind of person, which is 100% refreshing. And one of the main reasons I think so many young people gravitated towards her online. She really appealed to the outsider, like the cool kid that was never really the cool kid at school, but low-key just slayed. And look at her now kind of vibe, Actually, I was just curious, and I looked up to see what exact percentage of the world's population is considered to be rich or famous. And apparently it is 1%, or probably even just a fraction of a percent. So, it's no wonder that people did relate so hard to the Emma Chamberlains of the world back before the Emma Chamberlains became so rich and famous. But the part that they maybe aren't all relating so hard to is the uber-driven, obsessive and competitive side of people who do generate such huge amounts of following and success in their lives. I think that competitiveness and having a competitive spirit is one thing. I think the desire to acquire wealth and fame is a whole other thing. And I think there's this obsessive personality trait that drives certain people in a way that turns living life and having a career into an actual Olympic sport. And sometimes this happens completely unintentionally and unknowingly as to why it even turns into something like this for them. So that's something that I've been thinking about recently. I'm curious to hear some of your thoughts about this. Like, do you relate at all? Do you consider yourself a highly competitive person? What do you think drives you if you are? And where on the spectrum do you think that you fall? Personally, I don't consider myself to be a very competitive person. If you listen to my Get to Know Us Moody Monday podcast, I mentioned in one of the episodes that a fun fact about me that not so many people might know is that I was training to become a professional tennis player when I was a kid. I started playing when I was 6 or 7 and stopped when I was 13. And ultimately, I didn't become a tennis player because as I got older, it became more and more apparent that I didn't have the competitive drive and hunger to be the best. In fact, I basically ran away from that, which is actually a whole other story in itself. But one thing that I do have is the obsessive personality side of things. Like, I come across as pretty chill at first glance, but I have always been someone who, when I like something, I really like it and I will really go for it without even really trying. It just kind of happens. I hate / loathe comparing myself to others. And when it comes to my competitive side, it'll sound cliche to say, but it's always really myself who I'm competing with. I'll always be asking myself, could I have done such and such better? I used to be quite the perfectionist as well, which is a bit of a different thing, but is not unrelated to being competitive, but it's ultimately being competitive with yourself, I would say, perfectionism. And so I guess I'm kind of like a narcissist when it comes to my competitive nonness. I feel like I could go on more about this topic. Like, we only really started to scratch the surface, particularly when it comes to social media and identity and social media currency, which I definitely want to get into more on another Moody Monday episode. But for now, thank you so much for listening, everybody. If you haven't checked out our new May Monster issue, you can do that at www.mayberlin.com. If you would like to become a May supporter, you can also do that via our May Patreon, which is linked in our description. There's many, many cool things that you can actually get by becoming a May supporter, like stickers, artist postcards. We have a very cool collaboration with a 3D artist and designer. And yeah, Moody Monday, every Monday with a moody new topic. Lots of love.